Hey, how are you? My name is Alex Menendez, and I'm a professional photojournalist based in Orlando, Florida. I've been doing this for about 32 years professionally. I have 2 teenage boys, and last year I had a very serious health scare. And it made me kind of rethink some of the things I want to tell my children and some of the stories I want to tell them. So I'm starting this YouTube channel. It's called UNTOLD, and what it is, it's going to be highlights of some of my photos, and I'm going to tell you stories a little bit behind the scenes as to kind of what happened or what I was thinking at the time or lessons that I learned. So I'm going to start this. This is the first episode, and this is going to deal with boxing. I myself am a former boxer, and I go to the gym quite often. My boys go to the gym quite often. And I've been shooting around the state of Florida, in Nevada, in Panama, California, New York for quite some time. And what you're about to see are some of the photos that I've taken. All the images on here were captured by me. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes look, some insight, and some of the things that I've seen and hopefully I can share with you. And I hope you enjoy it, so let's go. As I mentioned earlier, boxing was one of my favorite sports to shoot, and I've been shooting it for about 3 decades now. Most of the fights that I cover take place in Orlando. They're smaller local shows. And I've done that for years in really bad lighting, and over time I've learned what to look for and what some of the insight is and how these guys are presenting themselves and fighting. And it just comes with experience. You know, you get better and better the more you shoot. You dial in your camera settings, you learn some of the repetitive things that boxers are doing, or you see the same guys over and over, and you start to determine, you know, what you're going to do with them and how it's going to fall into place. Most of the time you're right, but not always. Sometimes you get caught off guard, and the guy that you hadn't planned on winning, or the woman that you hadn't planned on winning, you know, takes the bout, and it's a big surprise. And the reactions that you get from the fighters and the coaches and the trainers is pretty spectacular to see. So, you know, there's never been a fight that I've gone to on a fight night where I haven't been surprised by something that I've seen. I've seen quite a bit. Like I said, I've shot amateurs, I've shot pros, I've shot small fights, I've shot big fights, I've been in gyms, I've seen the guys train, the girls train. And the boxing is truly a dedicated sport. It's a very lonely sport because you do most of the stuff by yourself. You're in the gym for an hour or two with your friends, but for the most part, the rest of the day is spent eating right and getting mentally right, keeping yourself in shape, not doing drugs, not drinking, and you know, all in all, it's a pretty cool sport. And you know, the spoils go to the victor is what they say. I mean, the person that trains the hardest almost always wins. With boxing photography, you know, I've shot some pretty big episodes, some pretty big things on the stage, and just like these boxers, you have to train yourself to know what to look for, to know how to shoot, to know what ISO, to what camera, what settings, where you're going to position yourself. So photographers have to train themselves as well, and I think that's what makes it such a fulfilling experience to me, is that I've started out small in these local shows, and I've worked my way up and worked my way up and worked my way up, and when you finally do get that credential and you're allowed to shoot a big show, you know, I was nervous, I'll admit it. You're shooting under different lights, you're shooting under a really crowded apron. You got 6, 7, 8 photographers on one side, and you're all jostling. And it's just something that you grow into and you get used to. And it's kind of like life, you know, you take it as it comes, you can't control everything, and you just do the best with what you can do. I mean, that's the best advice I can give to somebody is watch what other people do, learn, listen, and then when you become somebody that they want to be sure to share your wealth, your knowledge. You know, this isn't just for one person. I think as photographers, knockouts and knockdowns are one of the most spectacular things you're going to see. Everybody wants a knockdown, everybody wants a knockout, and they want to be the prize fighter that wins by totally defeating your opponent and embarrassing them. It's kind of hard as a boxing photographer because I go into the gyms and I know a lot of these people and I see a lot of the people over and over, and you become friends with them, but the thing is, like I said, boxers are solo. They're very alone people, and they'll smile, they'll be your friend. You're doing some portraits with them, that sort of thing, and it's all fun and good. But then when you get to the ring, they're so serious that you might get 2 or 3 seconds with them in the locker room as they're rubbing their hands or as they're warming up on the mitts. But for the most part, they're in a zone, they're focused, and their coaches really don't want you there. They're friends with you, but this is the boxer's time. It's for him to get himself mentally prepared, and he's already done the physical part, so they really don't want you to be a distraction. So you have to get in there, be quick, get your shots, get out of there, adjust your white balance, your settings, get everything that you can do, and then get out of there. When you see a friend of yours win, it's tremendous when they knock somebody out that you don't know, because you just feel good for them. You know how much time they put in and how dedicated they were. But when it's a friend of yours that gets knocked out, or somebody that you've followed for a while, you can't help but to feel bad for them. And that's one of the reasons I try not to get so close anymore to some of the boxers I know that are young and up and coming kids, because I just feel bad for them, and it makes me cringe a little bit to see them get knocked out, especially if they get hurt. That's like the worst thing about this sport is boxing is not a game, and you take it with a grain of salt. You can only shoot what's presented to you in the ring, and that's what I do. And I can't really get emotionally attached anymore. I used to be, and now it's a job for me. I try to make pretty pictures. I try to make the sponsors, the promoter, everybody happy. If I'm being paid by Getty or AP, I try to make them happy by giving them a variety of pictures. But when somebody gets knocked out, I snap a quick picture or two, and then I back off. I don't sit there and lay on the trigger when they're in a bad way. I just don't find that very ethical, and I don't really find it to make me feel very good. All the guys ask me, what's it like shooting ring girls, man? They're hot, aren't they? Did you ever shoot them? Did you ever shoot them for a calendar? Did you ever shoot them on the beach? No, the ring girls are there to do a job, and their job is to tell you what round you're in. I prefer to shoot the women fighters because they are the ones that most of the people come to see when there's a woman's card or there's a fight featuring a woman. They train just as hard, if not harder, than the guys. They still don't get the money that they're owed or deserved. They fight 2-minute rounds. Most of them are pushing for 3-minute rounds. But whenever there's a woman's card on the card, nobody wants to miss it, and they shouldn't. They're spectacular. I grew up in Canastota, which is a small town in upstate New York, and that's where the International Boxing Hall of Fame is located. Every year the best boxers in the world show up, and so do their fans and the promoters and media. And I've been lucky enough to film there for the last 10 years. Ed Brophy, Pat Orr, they all let me in, Jeff. And they have a parade every weekend. It's a spectacular festival, and there's no other sport or no other Hall of Fame that rivals this. This is by far the best in the world. It's the most fan-friendly and just amazing event that you'll ever attend. And I'm going to go into another YouTube video on just this sometime down the road, so pay attention. I'd have to say Orlando Cruz from Puerto Rico is the most interesting fighter I've ever shot. I started doing his fights when he got to the States. He was an Olympian from Puerto Rico, and he was the very first ever professional boxer to come out as being gay. I remember shooting his first fight in Kissimmee, and the crowd they were being idiots, calling him names, making fun of him. And his mom was there to support him, and she was always there, and he just became a beast. I mean, he finally won the fans over, and they started to love him and praise him, and that's kind of the way it should be. I'm glad he got his kudos. Now, one night when I was up shooting at Turning Stone in New York City, the Pulse nightclub shooting happened. It was a gay event at a nightclub, and 49 people got shot. And I remember shooting my boxing match in New York, and I went to bed, and about 2 o'clock, 2:15 in the morning, my phone was ringing off the hook, and it was wire services asking me if I could cover the event, the tragic slaying of these 49 people. And Obviously, I couldn't because I was in New York. So when I returned, I immediately went there. Orlando Cruz showed up, and he realized he had 4 friends of his that were killed that night in the club. So, he came to town, and he was at the vigil, and he was pretty upset. So a few months later, I introduced him to a friend of mine named Roxy, and she hooked him up, and they started becoming friends. He had another world championship fight in Kissimmee, so Roxy was invited to carry the flag and be part of his troupe, and it was pretty awesome. And I remember his face after he won that event. He was on fire, and I know he was doing it for his friends, and he's just a spectacular individual, and I'm very proud of him. I think he's one of the bravest people I ever met, and I hope he encourages other people to be just as brave as he is. The biggest takeaway I could say from boxing is the amount of friends I've met over the years. There's too many to name, and I've seen a lot of really good people. I've seen a lot of mentors. I've seen a lot of coaches, judges, and just all around people that really care about other people. You're there to beat the living crap out of each other, but at the same time, you're there to represent a sport and to show how much you know, how much you've trained. And it's kind of like my photographer friends. I have a lot of photographer friends. There's too many to name, but I got Ed Diller, Mikey Williams out of Top Rank, Joe Petro, Lester Silva, he's amazing. Damon Gonzalez is, wow, I've seen him grow leaps and bounds over the years. Everybody knows Ed Mulholland. He's a famous photographer, and he's very, very good. Idris Elba, Al Bello, probably the best boxing photographer in the world. Then you've got the women. You got Emily Harney, Marilyn Paulino, just amazing people. And bare knuckle, you've got Phil Lambert. Anthony Geathers has come a long way. Alex Nunez from Cuba, he's gotten a lot better. Joseph Correa, Brian Gonzalez, Sidestep Media, those guys are just a bomb. And then you can't forget Tom Hogan at Golden Boy. He's pretty much dominated the West Coast. So I've met some really cool people, and they've given me a lot of tips. They've welcomed me to their arenas. At most of these events, there's a house photographer. He's the one that's there with the promoter. He knows what's going on. He knows the access points. He knows the website. He knows everything you're going to need to know, or she. And I keep saying that because there's not that many female boxing photographers, but they're growing in leaps and bounds in this sport. But you always want to be friends with these people because they're really going to help you out. They're going to give you good spots at the apron, or if you're not allowed on the apron, which I haven't been for half my career, they're going to put you up high, but they're going to give you a really good seat, something that you're going to get all the views from. And no matter where you shoot boxing, everybody wants to be on the apron because they think that's the best place. But sometimes these overhead shots are just as good, if not better, because you're not dealing with the crowd, you're not dealing with people throwing beer bottles or spitting on you or cussing at you. You're up away from the people, and you can see the whole show, and it's like a Christmas spectacular. Some of these events are just through the roof. The crazy lights, the smoke, the music. Like I said, boxing is one of my favorite sports to shoot, if not the favorite. It's very hard, very difficult. There's no way that you can anticipate when somebody's going to throw a punch or what punch is going to put somebody down. And like I said, it's just like life. You just got to take what comes at you. And life's not fair. Boxing's not fair. Straight up, that's the way it is. But you just do the best with what you've been given. We've all started out in the dungeon. Like I said earlier, photographers start out at the local gym, really dank and dusty and hot, and they earn their stripes, and then they work their way up to a local show, and hopefully they can get some access in the dark lighting or really bad lighting, and then they'll get the calls up for some bigger shows or some bigger gyms, and that's where you go. The Mayweather gym, when I went there for Mayweather's first fight against Maidana, there were hundreds of photographers, TV, media, radio, and just people that wanted to be there. And it was like going to the fair. It was just crazy. There was people everywhere, and they were doing all kinds of things. And I had access to get there, and then I finally worked my way up to the fight thanks to some very good people that let me in. And that's another thing. When you work with the promoters, you gotta give them kind of what they want, because they don't always know what they want. You gotta give them what you think they want, and then give them more. They're getting barraged by people giving them free photos or offering them free access or this or that, and in return sometimes they want free tickets or can you get me into this? No, you just gotta prove your worth and let them know that you know what you're doing, and like anything else, hopefully one day you'll get the call up. When you get the call up, don't mess it up. Make sure your captions are correct. Make sure you get the people's names right. Make sure you get the venue right, and make sure your camera settings are set. I've seen people shoot what would have been beautiful images, but they were blurry, or they were the wrong color, or they were just slightly out of focus or off frame. So, I just took my time, learned the ropes. I messed up quite a bit, and there's nothing I can do about it. You just bite the bullet and move on. At this point, there's nothing you can do. But once again, I just want to thank my friends. I've met a lot of really cool people that have given me access and have taught me things that I may not have normally learned. They've also taught me some of the pitfalls or some of the dangerous places to avoid, like who not to talk to. There are people that you don't want to be associated with in this sport, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is. There's people that take advantage. There's people that talk behind your back, and you just gotta, you can't sit there and fight with them, because regardless, you're gonna look like the idiot. They're always gonna come out on top, even if they're wrong or even if they're doing something against you. It's all in who they know, and if word gets out that you're doing something wrong, or you did something wrong, or they made it up about you that you did something wrong, you're never gonna win. So stick to your own, do your job good, get in, get out. Sometimes it's better to not let them know you were even there. Let them see your pictures afterwards. Get a different angle, get a different shot. Trust me, they're gonna know you were there. Bare knuckle boxing has taken the world by storm lately, and it's an 8-sided octagon. There's not a cage, there's no chain link fence, but there are ropes. And man, it is a quick sport, a brutal sport. It's a fast sport, and it's really cool to shoot. The fights don't last as long as boxing. They're shorter rounds, not shorter rounds in length. Just the fights don't last. It's pretty brutal, and I love it. I can't wait to shoot more of this sport. If you check back in a year, hopefully I'll have some more images. But yeah, it's one of my favorite things to shoot right now, and I can't wait to just keep this trend going. As long as they stay in business, I'll stay in business. Like I said earlier, this is my job. A lot of people are there for fun. A lot of people want to get pictures of their favorite boxers, get autographs, collect things of that nature. As a professional photographer, I'm not allowed to ask for signed autographs, signed items, hats, jackets, things. I just show up and do my job. I try to stay out of the way, let them not focus on me, but let me focus on them. And this has been my living. This is how I make a living. The price of what I've gotten paid has gone down considerably. It's ridiculous how cheap these photos are now, and how much you get paid or don't get paid. Sometimes you don't even get offered a ride to the hotel. It's just ridiculous. But there are some fighters that I really like to follow, and some promotional companies that are good to me, and I try to be good to them. Once I upload to the wire services, some of the pictures, if they were taken on a buyout, I don't own the images anymore, and I no longer own those images. And those seems to be the ones that get stolen quite a bit. People always grab my images. I see them in memes all over the internet. I see them used as posters or billboards or T-shirts or iPhone cases, and it's pretty sad. People just steal stuff. They don't realize that you're out there working hard. You're traveling. You're working yourself into the arena 3 hours before the fight. 2 hours after the fight, when everybody's gone home drunk, you're still there uploading images or having a hard time connecting to the internet. But for me, it's just a job. It's the norm now for me. I put up, I shoot 2,000 images a night when I'm shooting boxing, and I got to pull the 30, 35 best ones. So it takes quite a bit to call through that, but I usually get it done, and then the day later I'll put up another 100 or so to see if I can make some money. There's some guys that call me all the time, and they're, hey man, can I get a photo? Can I get a photo? And If it's a fighter, yeah, I'll give you a photo or I'll send you a copy of it. But if it's a promotion company, no. You've got money to, rent these venues and you sell beer and you got a DJ. You've even got a driver, which I love the drivers. They're pretty awesome to me. But if you can afford all that shit, then you should be able to pay me at least a small sum for what my photos are worth. So at this point, I keep the copyright to almost all my images. I own all my images, and I just put them up as a contributor. So I do get paid, not as much as I wish I could, but I do get paid. All in all, I'm just happy to still be alive. I'm still happy to be working. I'm starting to get my focus back, starting to get my brain unfoggy, and I hope I'm going to be shooting this for another 20 or 30 years. I recently did start shooting a Leica, and black and white is in my future. So keep checking back. Follow this page if you would. Follow me on Instagram at PhotoAlexM, and hope to see you in the next video.